Today I'm going to show you how to make this bracelet with the Christmas Dazzle Treasure Box beads. Now, of course, this can be done with other beads, and I do intend to make another design with easier had beads pretty close to this for people that did not get the box. This is the clasping. I just did a loop and a bead, and it works really well, stays on really well. This is what the bracelet itself looks like. Let me take it off if I can. One-handed taking on and off is not easy. There we go. And this is what it looks like. It turns out really pretty. It's a nice, substantial feeling bracelet. It's comfortable on, and it's really, really pretty. I'll get you close to show you the units. And there it is. And let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this bracelet. Okay, for this particular project today, we will be using from the treasure box the 8mm round glitter bead and the octagonal shaped bead. So this is like a 5 by 5 by 5, I believe they called it. And then adding to that, we will have some seed beads. These are Toho, and we will be using 15-0, 11-0, and just a few 8-0s. This is the Starlight in the Toho line. It's galvanized permanent finish, gold tone, and perhaps one of the clasps from the box. I'm going to try to design a beaded clasp ending on this, but if you want to put a clasp on, you can put on one of these also. If I do not use it, you can always put on a toggle or a lobster claw clasp if you would like. We will also be using Nanofill 10-pound. You can also use 4 or 6-pound Fireline, probably 6-pound. 4 may be a little too light for the size of beads we have here. And you can also use 8-pound Nanofill if you need to. I'm using a size 12 English beading needle, and I have put onto it about a wingspan of thread. A wingspan is when you spread your arms out like you're going to fly away, straight out at your sides. Measure from the fingertips on one hand, the length of that arm, across your chest, the length of the second arm, and to the fingertips on that arm. And you will probably have to extend your Fireline or your Nanofill during this project, so I will post a video in the description box beneath the video player that will show you how to do that if you do not know how. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this project, after you have threaded your needle, you will want to pick up, let's start with the octagonal beads. We'll pick up 3 of them, and then an 11-0, and then one of the larger round beads, and then an 11-0. Bring this down to the end of your thread. And we have a lot of thread, so it's going to take a second. Let me get you in here, rearrange the camera a little bit and get you in here. Now that you have these on your thread, you're going to go in from the tail side on the first octagonal shaped bead here, and then through all 3 of them, just like this. Hold on to your tail, hold on to your working thread, and just pull this around. Now you have something that's shaped weird. Now we're going to go into the 11-0 and the 8mm round and the 11-0 on the other side of it, just like this. And we're going to hold on to our beads, hold on to the tail, pull this thread through. And this is what you should have. Now you have a bit of tail on this side. You don't need a lot, just enough to tie a knot. So we're just going to secure this unit by tying an overhand knot with the working thread and the tail thread, and have it go right between these beads. So again, I'm going to tie one more just to secure it a little bit more. Make sure it slides down between the 11-0 and the octagonal shaped bead. Let me get you down here like this. Now your thread is coming out where you tied your knot, so we're going to sew into this 11-0 and the bigger bead here. Just to secure this end one more time, we're just going to sew back up through it one more time. Since it is the end of our bracelet, we want to make sure that it's very secure and can handle any stresses from the clasping. So I'm just sewing through all of the beads. Move my tail out of the way, and I'll go through this 11-0 and the big bead here. And now we are ready to start our next unit here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have units that always have 3 beads of the smaller ones and 1 of the bigger one. So since we have 1/2 of the big bead with the 3 beads on this side, we need to add 3 on this side. Whenever you're coming out or going into the bigger bead, you will add an 11-0 seed bead. So we'll pick up an 11-0, and this is to cover the thread. Because of the size of the beads, you'll get a little extra thread. So we're going to have an 11-0, we're going to have 3 of the octagonal shaped beads and an 11-0. Then we're going to go back into the round bead from the opposite side and pull these beads down, just like this. Now you're going to sew back through all of these beads. So go through the 11-0 and all 3 of these beads here. And then when I get all the way around, I'm going to go through that 11-0 and through the big bead again here. Just like this. And now I need to sew all the way up to this bead to make my next unit. So I'm going to go through this 11-0 and this bead here, and then into the middle bead. Here we're going to make a unit again. So we're going to use this as our 3rd bead, and we need to add all the rest of the beads. So we need to pick up an octagonal bead. If I can get one, come here. And then I'm going to pick up one of these big beads, so I need to pick up an 11-0 first. Then the 8mm round, then an 11-0, and then another octagonal. So because I have 2 on here and I'm sharing this one, I will have my 3 octagonal beads. So I'm going to go into the opposite side of the bead I'm coming out of. I'm going to pull these down, and this is what you should have. Now we're just going to sew back through this again. So I'm going to go through, I went through the 11-0, I'm going to go through the big bead. And I'm just holding on to my beads so I can give a little tug and get some tension. You want nice tension on this. And then again through the 11-0, the bead beneath it, and then through the connecting bead. Now I'm all the way around. I need to work my way over to here so that I can make my next unit from the big bead. So now I'll go up into this one, into the 11-0, and back into the larger bead right here. Now because I'm coming out of the larger bead, I need to pick up an 11-0. I need to create my 3 beads on this side, so I will pick up 3 of them because I have nothing to share as far as those beads go. I'm sharing the big bead now. So we're going to pick up 3 of these and then an 11-0. Just like this. And we're going to go back into the opposite side of the larger bead and then sew all the way around again to secure it. So go into your 11-0 and all 3 beads on this side. Just hold on to your beads as you pull your thread through so you can tighten it. You're not going to get a real nice tight secure unit until you go back through your connecting bead. Now you have a nice tight secure unit. we have to sew up to this bead in the middle. We're going to go through the 11-0 and the first bead and then into the second bead here. Now we're sharing this bead, so again we will just have to pick up 2 of the octagonal shape and 1 of the bigger beads. So the octagonal shape first, then an 11-0, then a large bead, then an 11-0, and then another of these, just like this. Then you go into the opposite side of the bead you're exiting from. Let me get some of this stuff out of my way. Pull this through, just like this, and sew back through again. And I'm in my connecting bead now. So I've gone all the way around and then just up to my big bead. So basically this is what the units are going to look like. You're going to have a unit with 5, or actually each unit is around the big bead, so an entire unit is this entire space. But what it will look like is you'll make this half and then you'll make this half, and then you'll make this half and then this half. So you will have units that look like you have a big bead and then 5 of your octagonal beads, then a big bead and 5 of your octagonal beads. So you want to know what they look like, so as you're going around you don't get confused on what bead to put in next. You know exactly what to do because you know what your unit should look like. So let's do one more full unit and then we'll go to length. So we're going to pick up an 11-0, and then we're going to pick up 3 of our octagonal beads on this side. Come here. These are not cooperating with me well because they're strange shaped. And into the opposite side here. So 11-0s on either side of the big bead always, and then sew back through all of the beads. Into the 11-0 and back into the bigger bead. And then sew back all the way to the middle bead here. Just like that. Then you're going to pick up 1, because we're coming out of the 3 here. You know you have to pick up 1 octagonal bead. Oh, come here. Jeez Louise. And then you have to pick up an 11-0, a big bead, an 11-0, and an octagonal bead. Just like this. Drop them down. Go through the beads you're coming out of in the opposite side, and then sew around. And up to the bead on top here. And you will continue making units like this until you have 9 full units. And the way I'm counting a unit is 6 beads around the big bead. So I'm just counting the big beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, this is 7 inches already, but the embellishments I plan to do and the clasping I plan to do will draw this in a little bit. The clasping isn't very long. So because these are bigger beads and they'll take up room on my wrist, I've gone ahead and gone a full 7 inches, hoping that I will get about a 7.5 to 8 inch bracelet, simply because, like I said, this is pretty tight. This will be tighter around the wrist because of the size of the beads. We'll find out more and be able to adjust more as we finish this design, because I am designing right now. So if you have a very small wrist, then you'll probably want to go maybe 8 units, even 7 units. You'll have to put it around your wrist and see how it looks. We'll know more in a few minutes. But for what I'm shooting for, I am making 9 units. And I'm going to put a little clasping bead on the end here and see how this works out. And then we will do some embellishments through the middle here. So since we're right here, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and an 8-0, just like this. Let me get you closer. And we're going to drop this down. And then we're going to pick up one of our larger beads and an 8-0. Drop it down. Then you're going to go around, actually that was an 11-0, which 11-0 is fine. It doesn't matter. Then we're going to go back into the big bead. So we're just bypassing that 11-0 I dropped on the end there. And we're going to go back into the big bead. We're going to pull this down. So you have to loosen your thread and pull it down until the 8-0 stands just above this bead here, just like this. And then we're going to go back through that 8-0. And then we're going to pick up 2 11-0s. And we're going to go through the bead we're attaching to on the opposite side here. Pull this down, just like that. Now we're going to sew back up through this a couple of times. So I'm going to turn it over just so I can get to it better. I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm going to go up into these 2 and then the 8-0 through the big bead into the 8-0 or the 11-0 on top here. Back down into the big bead and then into the 8-0 and the 2 11-0s on the opposite side, just like this. And then I'm going to pull this through. Then I'll go back through my attaching bead and I'll sew through that one more time the same way. So go ahead and do that one more, or maybe twice if you feel like you need to, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have sewn through and secured that one more time. Now we're going to start an embellishment that moves across the top of the bracelet. So we're going to get our 15-0 seed beads now. So if you haven't extended your fire line, you should extend it somewhere in the middle here when you're using your bigger beads. You don't want to extend your nanofill or fire line right before you do your 15-0s, but you do want to have a long length of thread. So somewhere in here, if you're getting short on thread, go ahead and extend so that you can sew through the bigger beads with it, because sometimes the little extension knot will be an issue with 15-0s. So we're going to pick up 8 15-0s onto our seed bead, onto our needle. So let's do this. So I have 8 15-0 seed beads. I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to cross over diagonally and go into the big bead on the opposite side. So I'm coming out this side, I'm going to go into this side so that I have a diagonal embellishment. And I'm just going to pull these down and tighten them up. Now, if you're using smaller seed beads, I think I'm going to go ahead and do 9. If you're using smaller seed beads like a Miyuki or something, then you're going to have to adjust the amount of your embellishment. I'm going to try 9 on this just because I want to see if that'll look better. I'm going to go back in here. Actually, I do like that better. So we're going to pick up 9 during this embellishment. Now we're coming out of this big bead here. We are going to pick up 9 more 15-0 seed beads. 3, so 9. I'm coming out here. I'm going to go into this middle bead straight across. So you're going to go from the big bead to the middle octagonal bead, from the middle octagonal bead into the big bead, and you're just going to do that all the way down. So now we're going to go here, and you're always going to go in on the opposite side from which you're coming out of whatever bead you're in. So if I was in here, I go down here. Now I'm going to pick up 9 more. I'm coming out at the top here. I'm going to go into the bottom of this bead. Right there. And just pull this down. Just like that. And I'm going to continue doing that all the way, the entire length of the bracelet. So I'll just continue all the way. And when we get to the end, we'll be back. Okay, so now I have gone all the way to the end here. I'm coming out of my last bead here. I need to put 1 more embellishment on when you get to the end. So let me show you. I'm coming out of the big bead, and I have my 9 beads on my needle, and I'm just going to go ahead and go up into the opposite side on this bead here and pull that down. I'm going to cut this tail off, and then here we're going to tie a little knot just to make sure that our embellishment stays nice. So right here, we're coming out of this bead. There's a thread bridge right here. Make sure your embellishment is nice and tight. Go underneath this thread bridge, right between the beads. Just right there. And pull your needle through. Make a little loop, go through the loop, and pull. Just one little securing knot, that's all we need. Then we're going to go up into this bead here. And we're going to make a loop to go around this bead. Now, I think I know the number, but I'm not positive, so I'll show you how to test to make sure that this is going to work. But first, what we need to do is we need to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and an 8-0. Come down here and drop this down. Now we're going to pick up 22 or 25 beads. Let's try 22. We're going to pick up 15-0 seed beads. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up 22 off camera, and I'll be right back and show you what I've got. So I have picked up 22 seed beads. Now, the way we're going to test this to make sure it's going to work is we're just going to come right back through this 8-0 seed bead and just the 8-0. Hold on to it with your finger and your thumb and pull those beads around. Just like that. Now, we're going to pick up 2 11-0s and come back through this bead. So I've got 2 11-0s on my needle. Come back through on the opposite side. Pull this down tight. Wrap it around your finger a couple of times. And then we can put it over this bead and see how it's going to fit. Don't let any slack come through because it's going to be tight. You're not going to have any slack. So let's see if that will go around that bead nicely. Nope. Well, maybe. I'm going to add 2 more beads. So all I have to do is just come back through this bead here. What I'm going to do is just pull my needle off, pull out these 2 11-0s, then I can pull this back up through the 8-0 and add 2 more beads and see how I do. So that's how you can test it when you're doing this type of clasping, is just to finish it up, but don't tie a knot or anything, and check it out, see how it works. And let's see, we need 2 more 15 O's. Let's do 3 for good measure here. Drop those down. So that would be 25. I'm going to go back through my 8-0 right here, hold on to it, pull my thread through, pull it down into a loop, pick up 2 11 O's, go back into this bead here, make sure my embellishment loosened up a little bit. So pull on that, and I can sew back through that and fix that, and I'll show you how. So pick up my 2 11 O's, go back into this bead here, and hold it tight around my finger. I'm just going to wrap it around, hold it really tight, and see if I can slide this over this. I want it to be tight, but I don't want it to be, see, that's good right there. So now we know we need 25 15 O's if you're using the same beads I am. If not, you may want to test it anyway because they have a tendency to be a little bit different. So what I'm going to do now that I'm coming out of this bead is go back up through all of these beads. So I'm going to go into, I'm coming out of this bead here, I'm going to go into these 2 11 O's and up through this 8-0, and I'm going to exit. And then I'm going to sew through all of these 15 O's, making sure I don't miss any. So I have to come up through under this 8-0 here, and just start sewing through them. I'll take a few at a time here. Pull through and just continue sewing all the way around until I get back to my 8-0. Then I can go through it and the 2 11 O's and back through the bead I'm attached to. So just continue doing this all the way around, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have secured my end here. You can go through it twice, 3 times, how many times, ever times you want. I'm now coming out of this bead right here. I want to tighten up this embellishment since it got loose, so I'm going to just go into these 15-0 seed beads again. Right here. Ignore those 2 11 O's and go back into this bead here and pull it tight. Now my embellishment is tight on that one again. So now I can go up into this bead here, the 11-0, go into the octagonal bead, go into this one on top here, right underneath my clasping, make sure your clasping looks good. Sometimes I pull it too tight and I make it look kind of messy. And then go back into this bead right here. We're going to do another embellishment and work our way around just to close things in and make them look a little bit more finished. So what we're going to do is here we're coming out of this octagonal bead, we are going to go into this 11-0 right here. And we're going to pick up a 15-0 and then go into the next 11-0. Now here we don't have any 11 O's in between the beads, so we're going to pick up an 11-0 and go in between the beads and pull it. Then here we do have 11 O's, so we're going to go into the 11-0 come here. You get you closer so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and go between these two 11-0s and pull. And see, this is what I meant by I'm going to draw my piece together and maybe lose a little length. So that's why I made it a little longer. So now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and put it between these two beads. Go through the 11-0 behind this bead. Pick up a 15-0. So whenever you have two 11-0s, you pick up a 15-0 and go in between them. When you're coming out in this unit with just the octagonal beads, you'll just pick up an 11-0 and put it between those. Try to go through that 11-0, and I'll just continue doing that all the way down the length of my bracelet. Now it may kind of draw to one side a little bit. That's okay, because we'll do the other side and it'll straighten out. But mine doesn't seem to be doing that yet, but it's a possibility. So just continue doing that all the way the length of the bracelet, and we'll be back. So I've gone all the way to the end, and I'm coming out of this bead right here now. So let's get you in close. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go right up through this bead that our clasping is on. Just go right through there. And I've extended my nanofill right here, hoping that it'll go through the beads before I have to start picking up 15-0s. So hopefully it doesn't end up right where I need. Well, it's going to be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to go through this one on this side right here. I always try to position my extensions to where they'll go through a bigger bead and not where I have to put 15-0s. It's just easier. And then I'm going to go up through this 11-0 right here and begin my embellishment on this side. So I'll pick up a 15-0 to put between the two 11-0s. Then I will pick up an 11-0 to put between the two octagonal beads. It should have slid through that 11-0. It's easier to go through the next 11-0 most of the time when you're in the octagonal bead, so you want it just slide all the way through if you can, and then a 15-0 between these two. And I'm just going to continue just like I did on the other side all the way down to the end. When we get there, we'll come back. Okay, so I have done the entire embellishment all the way down the side here, and I'm coming out of this octagonal bead here. I'm going to go up into the one the clasping is on here, and then I'm just going to turn my piece. Make sure your embellishment is tight, you don't have any slack, and go underneath this thread bridge right here. Pull a little loop down and go through it, and pull a knot down on that thread bridge. Tighten everything up, and then go into this bead here, this little octagonal bead, go into the 11-0 underneath it, and into the bigger bead here. Let's get in a position so we can tie this again. So I think I want to go into this 11-0 and this octagonal bead here. And you can sew through and knot as much as you want. So I'm right here between this 11-0 and this octagonal bead. I'm going to get thread bridge between the two of them right here. And there's two thread bridges, one into this bead and one into this bead. I'm going to go into the one on the edge right here and just tie a knot. Then I can slide down into this 11-0 and into the next octagonal bead, into these two. Actually, I'll just go into the 11-0 here, not the 15-0, because that's an embellishment, then up through this bead. Now you can sew through and tie as many times as you want. I'm just going to call it good, and I'm going to cut that off really short and show you what I've got. So this is what this looks like. And I'll go ahead and put it on my wrist and show you what that looks like too. Let's get in really close on the units so you can see how pretty they are. I like the way it just kind of frames each of the larger beads. And you can turn your beads so that the glitter is up, since it only seems to be on one side. And turns out really pretty. So let's see. Let me go ahead and put it on my wrist and I'll be right back. Okay, and this is what it looks like. And I definitely lost some length in doing this, so making it 7 inches to start with is perfect because this fits my wrist just fine. So between the room that the beads take up because of the size of them and how small the clasping is and the fact that I drew the whole thing together with embellishments, you want to make it basically the size that you want to end up with to start with. So make sure the beads touch on your wrist. So I made mine 7 inches, and now I think I only have about a 7.5 inch bracelet. Let me see if I can find a ruler and measure it. And this works really well. You see how it's not going to come off. I have to kind of move it through like that. That's good. That means it's going to stay on your wrist. And I don't even know if I was in frame. I don't know if you saw that or not. But it's nice and tight, secure, fits well. So make sure you sew through your clasping quite a bit so that you can tug on it when you're using it. And let's see. See, it says almost an 8 inch. It's about a 7.5. However, because of the room it takes up, it needs to be that length. Plus, you're going to go halfway through there. So it's just a little over a 7 inch bracelet, actually, right around 7. So anyway, that's how you make that. And I think I'm going to make another one for everyone that didn't get a box with a little bit easier hat beads, maybe smaller. Maybe I'll go 6mm and 4mm and put that up too, so that everybody can have a shot at making this, because I think it turned out really cute. I really like it. Anyway, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. There will be more to come. Bye-bye.